Hello class. I am Arnell Noquez, and it is currently 11:32 on November 12th, 2018, so Veterans Day. I'm making this because I'm unable to actually be there or be here right now because I am going to be at urgent care because I'm really sick. So I'm going to be showing you guys my video and then explaining about it through audio.
When all the votes were counted after Tuesday's big midterm election, we had a kind of a normal outcome, a split verdict. Democrats took back control of the House, Republicans retained control of the Senate, and there was a kind of a division in some of the big governor's races. But for a long time on Tuesday night, it looked as if a different story might emerge.
You hear warnings of a blue wave coming.
Is it a wave or a tsunami?
We do believe there will be a blue wave.
Democrats had dreams early on in the evening of a big blue wave taking over not just the House, but also the Senate and many of those governor's races. And for a while, the results that were coming in seemed to reconfirm that notion. But then a different reality set in. Here's how the night unfolded. Around 5 o'clock, exit polls and a big Associated Press VoteCast poll that seemed to show Democrats were on their way to a very big night indeed. A lot of the women's vote was moving toward the Democrats, a big wave of women voters, and that looked like it might be enough to propel the Democrats to a bigger night than they had been expecting. First of all, Barbara Comstock, a Republican incumbent, was defeated by Jennifer Wexton, a Democratic challenger in Virginia.
Barbara Comstock, Republican member of Congress, losing her seat in Virginia.
And then in Florida, Donna Shalala, a former Democratic cabinet member, took over an open house seat that Republicans had hoped to hang on to. You had two big turnovers, and the signs of a big Democratic wave were taking shape. Then you also had some tantalizing possibilities in two really important states that seemed to confirm that idea. Again, in Florida, it appeared that the Democrats might win both a very hotly contested Senate race and a governor's race. They were leading in both of those races by a considerable margin. Bill Nelson, the Senate Democrat who was hanging on to a seat, it appeared, and Andrew Gillum, an African-American challenger, both took big leads in Florida. And in Texas, most surprisingly of all, Beto O'Rourke, a Democratic challenger, opened up a big lead over Senator Ted Cruz, the Republican incumbent, and Democratic dreams of not only taking the House, but having big wins in Senate races and governor's races were taking form right before their eyes.
Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat, he's ahead by 167,000 votes over Ted Cruz.
Then between 9 and 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Tuesday night, a different kind of reality began to set in. In two big Senate races in Tennessee and Indiana, Democrats were losing and losing big. Republican leads kept growing, and at 10 o'clock, both of those seats were called for the Republicans. At that point, the Democratic dreams of taking over the Senate pretty much ended. Next, those tantalizing Democratic leads in both Florida and Texas began to evaporate as well. Ted Cruz was declared the winner in the Texas Senate race at about 10 o'clock, and by 11 o'clock, Andrew Gillum, the Democrat who had been hoping to win the governor's race, conceded to Ron DeSantis, the Republican candidate. And Rick Scott, the Republican Senate candidate, held on to a very tiny lead, but it appeared he was on his way to victory as well. So the idea of having historic victories in two of the biggest states in the country disappeared for Democrats. And then late at night, some good news began to emerge for Democrats again. They won a whole series of closely contested House races, and it was clear the control there would be in Democratic hands. And Democrats won some of those closely contested Midwestern governor's races in Illinois, in Michigan, and in Kansas. So good news returned for the Democrats. So by about midnight, when all was said and done, we had a split decision. Some good news for Democrats, some good news for a divided country politically had produced, appropriately enough, a very divided government for the next 2 years.
So for the video, Midterms 2018, how the night unfolded, this would go under Media Moment Mini for midterm elections on reading side A for Under Finding Balance. So with this video, it kind of just discussed what the results were for the elections, and it discussed what was expected or what people in the beginning thought, and then what ended up happening in the end. So this would fall under Finding Balance, so under two parts of it. So finding balance, and if enough people don't believe the commander-in-chief is doing a satisfactory job, they show it during the midterms by voting members of the president's political party out. So this can be seen in the Virginia House of Representatives. So the seat was originally by a woman named Barbara Comstock, who was the incumbent, but ended up getting beaten out by a Democrat named Jennifer Wexton. And this is also seen by the U.S. House of Representatives Florida election. So even though there wasn't a Republican person sitting on that seat, it was an empty seat that the Republicans were hoping to take, but it ended up being a woman named Donna Shalala. So this also follows the second paragraph, or the last paragraph, under Finding Balance. So midterms can have striking effects in the Capitol. While a government divided can pose challenges, it can also even the scales. The legislative and executive branches can check and balance one another. So when the Republicans had the House and Senate and the executive branch, the checks and balances system wasn't really implemented too much because the legislative was fully Republican and so was the executive. But now, since the Democrats have the House, it's going to be the checks and balances system is going to be more implemented now because the Democrats are going to start using that to check the executive actions. Yeah, and that's it for my video. Thank you guys so much. Sorry this had to be a video. I just wish I wasn't sick. But yeah, thank you guys. Have a great day. Thank you, Mr. Saldana.